All right, joining me now is Douglas Holtz-Eakin, American Action Forum president and former Congressional Budget Office director. Doug, good to see you. So, you can't be surprised by these numbers. We've had low interest rates, we've had quantitative easing, now we have massive spending from the federal government. You can't be surprised that we're seeing this kind of inflation.
No, this isn't a big surprise. These are big policy errors, and they took place all last year. Big quantitative easing, Fed has its foot on the gas, huge excess stimulus in March of 2021, and the rest is predictable. I think if you look at these numbers, Sean, there are two things I'd point out that are really quite troubling. Inside the report, food, energy, and shelter, that's 50% of the typical family's budget, going up year over year at 9.8%. So if you fill up your car, go to the grocery, and go home, you know the inflation problem, and that's a big issue for people. And the shelter piece is in and of itself, I think, the one that is most troubling. That's a third of everyone's budget. It's been rising nonstop since January of last year. We have yet to see it even come close to peaking. It's at 6.6%. It was only at 6.2% year over year last month. It's been climbing very rapidly. And this isn't something where you can blame someone else. Like, you can't blame the Saudis, can't blame the supply chain. The apartment's here, the house is here. This is domestic policy errors, money, fiscal, and it is what it is.
Doug, in these reports, it shows that in September, gas prices went down 4.9%. But now we see in October, those prices are starting to rise again, probably putting more pressure on the American family.
No question. Last month, we had the food, energy, shelter number at 10.5. It'll go right back there when gas prices go up. This is a temporary reprieve. They've made a lot of it. It has nothing to do with the president's policies. And it'll be bad news when it heads north again.
Doug, we looked at the wholesale number from yesterday, 8.5%.
Right.
This is a leading indicator. So if Americans are saying, hey, when does the pain stop? If you look at the wholesale number from yesterday at 8.5%, there's a lot of inflation still to ricochet through the economy, right?
Yeah, if you look through the pipeline, whether it's finished intermediate goods or commodities, which are the very earliest, we've got inflation rates that are approaching double digits on all fronts. So there's no sign of cooling yet. And so what the Fed has said pretty clearly, and I'm sure people can now start to figure out, is they will not slow the pace of increases until they see some measurable success in actual inflation. We're seeing nothing so far. So, here we go.
But to that point, Doug, listen, I get the Fed. Right now we have a decent economy. Unemployment's still relatively low. They're going to continue to raise rates. But make no mistake, when the economy starts to go down and they still raise rates to get inflation back to that target of 2%, there's going to be massive political pressure blowing back on them. Do you think that Powell has the backbone to withstand that kind of political pressure and continue to raise rates to get inflation under control?
Well, let me just say, this is a lesson. Once you let inflation get entrenched, you have no good choices. You either live with the inflation, no one wants to do that, or you do the things necessary to control it, and that's really tough work. And Powell has consistently invoked the legacy of Paul Volcker and the late 70s and early 80s and said things like, we're going to keep at it. Well, his autobiography was entitled Keeping at It. So he's clearly trying to signal that the Fed is going to stick with this and get the job done. But that raises the risk of a recession. There's no way around that. And they are very cognizant of that risk.
No way around it. Doug, take a look at this survey from Goldman Sachs Asset Management. 71% of retirees are now saying that inflation is their biggest concern, among other worries such as future health care, potential reductions in future Social Security benefits. And they're afraid of running out of money, Doug. This is really challenging for those Americans who are on fixed incomes and how they navigate this inflation.
Well, there are a lot of worries, right, in life. You worry you could lose your job. You worry that you could have a health problem and a big health bill. You worry about a lot of things. But this inflation is for sure. Your money is worth 10% less than it was last year. No way around it. And it's not slowing down. So for sure, you have a financial problem. Of course, that's their number one list. It has to be.
Doug Holtz-Eakin, always smart. Thank you for joining me today and giving me your insight. I appreciate it.